Today is Chullin Daf Yud Amud Beis, continuing from our topic from last week. We're going to start off with a quick review. Just to mention, I want to dedicate today's shir for a refuah shlema for Sarah Liba Bas Slavka. She's having a refuah shlema. She currently lives in Los Angeles, and she's in need of a refuah shlema. Okay, so here we go. We know that there's a chazaka of Isser by a behema, right? Again, this is what we've been discussing in the past. And now we're in a situation, well, again, with that chazaka of Isser behema, everybody chai, zvucha. And then we also have a situation where we have now taken a look at our beautiful knife, and our beautiful knife, unfortunately, which has a chazaka that it's kosher, because I actually checked it, meaning I checked it before I did the shechita, and we know that it's all great. However, when I shechted my animal, I definitely sliced the skin. That there's no question about. It definitely went through the skin. And then, what did I do afterwards? My third stage that I did was, I took a knife, and I smashed some bones with this knife, and after I did so, I found a pagam, I found a dent in my knife. Now, what is the machlokas? The machlokas between, just a reminder, let's take a look at the machlokas on Daf Yud, right? Amar Rav Huna, afilu shira ba'atzamos kol hayom psula. Why? Because of the or chayshinan shema ba'or nifkama, as opposed to Rav Chizda, who says no, it's kshira because shema be'etzem nifkama, because maybe it hid the bone. Right, so that was the machlokas that we saw over the past couple of weeks. Now, and clearly the question is the following: how are we exactly supposed to? How much can we attribute to the fact that the skin is the one that gave a pagam on our knife? What do I mean? Rav Chizda, we know, holds that the fact that the nick, almost for certain, came from the mafrekas. Right? Remember we saw the diagram last week, right? So when I shecht, what's happening to my knife? My knife is perhaps going through and hitting the mafrekas. That is going to cancel out the concern that perhaps is also from the skin. Because remember, what we have to understand here, everybody, and that is we do have a chazaka. We have a chazaka, this animal is no good. That is undeniable. And now we have a knife which also is no good. And the question we're going to ask ourselves is, going through the ore, which for sure went through, going through the skin, does that render it questionable enough to invalidate my shechita? Or can we say, listen, maybe it hit that etzem, maybe it hit that bone, and if it hit that bone, that creates enough of certainty to say that it was the bone that caused the nick, and I have enough to rely on to remove the chazaka of the animal, which is in a zavucha. Maybe that's stacking up too many cards. Maybe it's making just too many assumptions. But that is, in fact, that perhaps is the machlokas between Rav Huna and Rav Chizda. Rav Chizda is saying, listen, the fact that it hit that bone is enough for me to say that the knife got its pagam after the shechita. This animal is beautiful. Kosher v'yosher. Chalak. C-O-R. Vadat. Right? Madrin. No problem. Okay? Meaning, but according to Rav Huna, listen, I know it went through the ore. It could be that it got a nick from, but I cannot be certain. Right? I don't have enough bevadaut. I can't say with enough certainty that it was created by that bone, and therefore I have no choice but to say that I gotta say this animal is not good. Why? Because I need to be certain in order to the chazaka that is, hey, good morning, that it's in a zvucha, and I just don't have it. That is what Rav Huna must claim, is that because Shema Ba'or Nifkama, maybe this skin has an ability to produce this nick, and since it might, there's a possibility, I can't rely on the fact that it was the bone. It could have been the ore, in which case, my shechita would not be a good shechita. Right, so I just wanted to kind of go through both of the studying for Rav Huna and Rav Chisda that we've been discussing. Now, if that's true, you'll see we're going to take it to the next stage. What would happen in the following case? And this is what I'll lay out on the table. So here we go. Here's our case. Regular case, but I lost the knife. Now, when did I lose the knife? So here's what's important. What did I do? I checked my knife before. I did my shechita. I know I hit the bone. I lose my knife. I never checked my knife to see what was the result of hitting that bone. Now, for Rav Chisda, that's very straightforward. Rav Chisda would say what? You hit the bone, that's good enough. Do I need to check? I know I hit a bone. I can rely on, meaning I didn't see a reusa, I didn't see the nikat, no problem. But what would Rav Huna hold? Meaning, Rav Huna, without actually seeing the dent in the knife, would he matir this animal? Again, here's the knife, I did the shechita, I hit the bone, I gotta check that knife. So I'm going to put it down. I'll get back to it in an hour. I got to deal with something. I come back to check that knife. The knife is gone. What would Rav Huna say, in your opinion, and why?
There's no nick in the animal, right?
So again, the animal's beautiful. The animal was shechted beautifully. The question is going to be, what? Without seeing the nick in the knife, what would Rav Huna say? Good or no good? And why? So again, I shecht, I hit the bone. Now what happens? I lose the knife.
I mean, which one was Rav Huna?
So Rav Huna is the one who says, Shema ba'or nifkama, that maybe it became possible, maybe there's a dent here because of the skin. Rav Chisda says, it's true, Shema ba'etzem nifkama, but I'm going to argue that if it hit a bone, since a bone for sure causes dents, and an ore does not cause a dent, I am very confident in saying it's the bone, and I will allow us to eat that animal because it got the nick on the way out at the end.
There's no reason to think there's a nick in the knife because it's not necessarily practice.
What was that, Josh?
There's no reason to think there's a nick in the knife until you see a nick in the knife.
Says Josh, what do you mean? Rav Huna would have to say it's good after all. He doesn't see a nick in the knife because the knife was lost. Without seeing, now let's use the proper terminology, he doesn't see the reusa, right? He doesn't see the reusa because the knife disappeared. Now, everyone would agree that if you don't hit the bone and you lose the knife, we discussed this, all the Rishonim say it's okay, right? Because without a reusa. Now, how come in this case it might be different? What?
With Josh saying that's just his fault that he lost it. Why should it become kosher all of a sudden now because he lost the knife and he can't check?
So again,
it's his fault.
In a regular case, where you do shechita, and your knife is lost, you know it's okay. There's no reason to. But you hit a knife. But wait a second, we hit a knife. We hit a knife. We hit a knife? We hit a bone. The knife hit a knife, right? So Chisda would say, no problem. I hit a bone. It's fine. What about Rav Huna? Will Rav Huna still say it's no good? So Josh wants to say, listen, he never actually saw the reusa on the knife. Since he never saw the knife, why should we assume that it exists? The shechita should be a valid shechita. Shema bor nifka, but there's no reusa here.
So there's no reusa in the first case.
Shema
bor nifka, why is there?
No, there's reusa in my knife.
Why is there any less of a shema bor nifka when you lose the knife than when you don't lose the knife? Meaning,
Josh, what would be the answer to that?
Why should losing the knife be any less of a shema bor nifka than when you
because when you saw the nick in the knife, you saw the nick in the knife. You know there's a nick there.
In the first case,
you see the nick in the knife. You know you blunted it.
Why are you assuming there's a nick?
Yeah, why are you assuming there's a nick?
Which case?
The first case.
So the case in the original case of the Gemara is that's clear. I do shechita, and what do? I see a nick in the knife.
So why does it say shema bor nifka?
What?
So why is it saying shema bor nifka? He knows that it was born nifkama.
Why? Why does he know it's born nifkama?
Where else would it
Maybe betzim nifkama.
If you remember he's not hitting a bow, then maybe it came from the.
We'll discuss it in a minute. What happens? What does Rav Chisda hold? We'll get there in a few minutes. If you don't hit a bone at all, what would Rav Chisda say? Rav Chisda still say born nifkama? Or okay, we'll hold on. We'll get that in a second. One step at a time. Now we're talking about other extrapolations of our original case today. That's what I want to spend at least the first half of it on, because it'll help us understand the case if we understand the extrapolations of the case. So here we go again. In the case, so again, the vanilla case, right? The vanilla bare bone. What's it called in science? The oh my goodness, the neutral, not the neutral.
No, control.
The control. Thank you. The control case, right? The vanilla flavor. The baseline case that our Gemara talks about is I do shchita, right? That's what the Gemara says. Hashochet besakin v'nimtzet piguma. Right? Rav Huna says, either you smash bones, no good. Why? Maybe it was the neck. Maybe it was the skin from the neck. Rav Chisda says, good. Why? Because maybe Shema betzim nifkama. That's the vanilla case. So now I ask you a question, and we said last time, if I shecht and I lose the knife without checking, everyone agrees it's going to be okay. Why? Why should I assume there's a nick in my knife? Right? That's what everyone agrees. We saw, well, I don't know if we saw it, but I said it last week and 2 weeks ago. So now my question is, I do shchita, I hit an etzem, I put my knife down, I check my email, I go back to my knife, I can't find my knife anywhere. Rav Chisda is easy. What Rav Chisda say? Fine. For sure it's fine. Betzim nifkama. Now, what about Rav Huna? Machloket, Josh, and Shlomo. Yoshua Omer, what do you mean? I don't have Re'usa. I never saw a nick in my knife. Let's go to the chazaka, that the knife is beautiful. The animal's shechted. Enjoy the barbecue. Says Shlomo, what do you mean?
Chazaka, that's every minachai until it's completely proven that it's...
So you're saying I need to have a burden of proof. Okay, so you ask a good question. Am I obligated to check my knife after every shechita? So the Gemara later on will say you must check before, but you don't need to check after. It's a good idea. They say it's like good practice. You know what I mean? It's like it's good practice, because if you don't, and then you shecht a bunch of animals and you find that it's no good, then you're in big trouble. You might have messed up your last 6 animals, right? But mikaradin, so it's in takan d'Rabbanan, they might need to, but mikaradin, you don't need to. You checked your knife before.
With all the simanim or kapra.
For all the simanim or kapra, right? You have to be bodek the simanim that we saw. You got to bodek the simanim because you got to remove that chazaka that it was there. Once you put the right. You want to stick to your ground?
It's for fun, I'll stick with it.
Here's my question. When you here's what do you Huna hold if you hit a bone?
Or Huna?
Meaning, where's Rav Huna, Rav Chisda? Rav Chisda, we said I can be told that it was the bone. I'm very positive. What Rav Huna say that a bone what?
Should be us, puzzle. Yeah.
Wait, what is again?
In other words, if you hit a bone, you see a nick.
No, okay. Forget seeing a nick for now. If you hit a bone, contact with the bone, and we'll discuss in a minute what type of contact does it need to be, because we're going to see it's a machlokas also. We'll get there also today.
So do you assume that there's a nick?
So, if I do shchita and I hit a bone, that was probably not so smart, right? But I hit a bone. Now, I don't see a nick, not because I looked and I didn't see one, because my knife disappeared. What should I assume? Rav Chisda says, meaning when we say, what is the language of the Gemara? Etzem vadai pogame. The Gemara said, we saw it 2 weeks ago. Etzem vadai pogame. What does etzem? How would you understand etzem vadai pogame? What does it mean? Etzem vadai pogame. That means
For sure.
But then for sure, you assume there's a nick.
Oh. Meaning, does this mean that if I don't see a nick, there's still a nick there? Because we have this principle called the etzem vada. If I have a principle called the etzem vada pogem, do I even need to see there's a nick?
Does it invalidate the slaughter?
Maybe if it's etzem vada pogem, it means that there's going to be a nick.
It doesn't invalidate that slaughter because you know it happened after. It probably happened after.
Now, that is according to who?
Rav Chisda.
That's according to Rav Chisda. Right? Because Rav Chisda says, if it's etzem vada pogem, I did my shechita, I didn't even look at my knife, etzem vada pogem, bang! My knife disappeared.
Is predicated on the fact that it could have happened on the skin. And
Yes.
Assuming that the knife is what's going to cause the nick, which is what we're doing here, then it's not Rav Huna's argument.
Rav Huna says, yes, etzem vada pogem. Yes, I agree. No? Just meaning, does he agree or disagree with etzem vada pogem?
Who?
Rav Huna.
This is disagree. It's possible.
Why should he disagree? Etzem vada pogem. This is physics.
Yeah.
This is facts, right? This is not like... But what's he worried about? Shem bor nifkama. Meaning, I want you guys to be clear on what is the machlokas of Rav Huna and Rav Chisda. I don't believe that the machlokas can be over etzem vada pogem. The machlokas is Shema bor nifkama. Is that enough of a doubt to say, yeah, it's true, etzem vada pogem? If my knife goes through the ore, is there a chance that could also happen? And if there's a chance that happened, then my shechita is no good. Whereas Rav Chisda says, listen, I have etzem vada pogem versus Shem bor nifkama. Since etzem vada pogem is so much more likely, 100 to 2, whatever the number is, right? I can be tole on etzem vada pogem. And if I can be tole on etzem vada pogem, that is the vadai. I only have a suffix of Shema bor nifkama. Says Rav Chisda, I have enough, which is a big chiddush, by the way. I have enough to remove the chazaka of Ever Minachai, and I'm going to eat this animal. Whereas Rav Huna says, I can't do that. I could be, what? Shema bor nifkama. And since there's a Shema bor nifkama, yes, etzem vada pogem, that's true, but maybe Shema bor nifkama. And maybe a Shema bor nifkama, then it throws a wrench into my shechita. And if that throws a wrench into my shechita, I cannot eat my animal. So now the question is going to be, I have a situation where, yes, or Shema ba'or paga, maybe. So it goes through the ore, then it hits that bone, and then the question is going to be, I lost my knife. But wait a second. If Rav Huna agrees that what? Etzem vada pogem. Does it matter if I see the reyusa or doesn't see the reyusa? No. You could argue that if this is the way to explain the machlokas, Rav Huna doesn't need to see the... Rav Huna or Rav Chisda, they actually don't need to see the dent in the knife. Why? The moment you hit a bone, it's vada pogem. You don't need to see the reyusa, it's vada pogem. In which case, the machlokas and Rav Huna and Rav Chisda would still stand even if you lose the knife after you hit a bone. Right? I think originally I thought what Josh was right. Originally I was thinking Josh is probably right. I was thinking about this last week. Why? After all, you have to see the reyusa. But the problem is, if we're going to explain the machlokas, Rav Huna and Rav Chisda is not over etzem vada pogem. That seems to be a fact. The whole machlokas is over. Is the chashash of ba'or nifkama enough to throw a curveball? Says Rav Chisda, it's not enough. I have a vadai, I have a suffix. I'm going to go with my.
It's a bit of a ridiculous argument because Rav Huna, you said everyone holds that if you don't hit the bone, that it's fine if you can't find the knife.
And you didn't look.
If you can't find the knife,
right? I do shechita. What? I do regular
so
shechita.
the only basis that there could be in it because I hit a bone. Mm-hmm. That's not an argument to suggest that there should be.
Okay. Very good. Explain. Say it again. I'm not sure everyone understood it.
If his only argument is standing on the fact that he hit a bone, then he has to assume that the only reason there could be a nick is because he hit a bone.
Okay. Yes, go.
If you
Beautiful.
see the nick, then there could be, I don't know where it happened. When it doesn't happen, you have to go on the ruling that if you're going to assume it's okay if you didn't hit a bone, you have to assume it's okay if you hit a bone. Because the bone won't invalidate the nick on the bone won't invalidate the slaughter.
Okay, so therefore...
I'm not sure yet. I'm not sure I get the question.
Okay, if you can't have it both ways. If we're saying that the bone causes the nick, right?
Right.
So then why is Rav Huna saying that it's no good? But it doesn't hit the bone. But we know it does, because he says, Shabor Nifkama. You follow? Meaning, again, the way I explained it was, listen, everyone agrees that when it hits the bone, it causes a nick. Okay, so if that's true, when it doesn't hit the bone, it should be okay. But what does Rav Huna say? It's not okay. So I don't understand.
Right, but that's because he holds the camera.
But he holds that if you don't hit the bone, it's good. And you can't find the knife.
Does he?
No.
Yeah.
He said everyone agrees.
Everyone agrees to that.
So the only foundation for his argument is that he hit the bone.
So this leads to, I think, a clarification of something which I want to share with you that someone explained to me last week. Listen to this. When a knife disappears before examination, I need to assume that it is pristine. I need to assume that this knife is beautiful. Meaning, why would I assume otherwise? Right? And I don't expect to find a reusa, so that is why Rav Huna would say it's okay. Meaning, I did shchita, forget that, I didn't hit a bone, I did shchita. Oh, I gotta check the knife, it's a good idea, check the knife disappeared. Oh, Shem or Nifkama, I would never assume that, because there's no reusa here. If I do a regular shchita, I don't hit a bone. I don't assume Ba'or Nifkama. That's so unlikely. If I were to see the knife and see a nick in it, then Shem and Ba'or Nifkama. If I don't see a pagam in my knife, I assume it was a beautiful shchita. The problem is I can't check my knife because my knife disappeared. So what does Rav Huna hold? I assume I have a pristine knife. Why do I assume I have a pristine knife? Because when you do shchita, it doesn't affect your knife. Regular shchita does not affect your knife, so I assume it's a pristine knife. Now, however, if I hit a bone and then the knife disappears, what is my expectation now? What's my expectation according to Rav Huna? Even according to Rav Huna. That we'd have to explain that even according to Rav Huna. Again, if I'm looking for a pristine knife, but once I hit a bone, I'm not looking for a pristine knife anymore, because once I hit a bone, my knife is not pristine. Once I hit a bone, my knife, I know it gives me the strength to say there's a rayusa, and therefore Rav Huna would argue that it's aser. Why? Because what am I looking for? I'm looking for a knife. I want to look for a pristine knife. The moment I'm not looking for a pristine knife, because I hit a bone, then there's my rayusa, and therefore I can no longer trust the shchita.
You can argue it all you want. It's not a logical argument.
Why?
Because his assumption is predicated on something that wouldn't invalidate the slaughter.
Yes, no, again, I want to look for a pristine knife.
Yeah.
So if I do regular shchita, put my knife down, can't find my knife, what? Pristine.
I understand it, but there's a disconnect in this logic. Because it's the only part of it that could cause the slaughter to be valid, the part that you could maybe be looking for, isn't the thing that would invalidate the slaughter.
Since Rav Huna, I want to explain Rav Huna is looking for a knife.
And on top of that, you're placing a doubt on top of it's a doubt.
No, I don't have a doubt because I hit a bone.
But you don't have a.
Etzem
You can't
vadei
assume
pogam.
there's a pogam there. Anyway.
Yes, no, yes. Etzem vadei pogam. I am assuming there's a
chance of a pogam.
No, etzem vadei pogam is language of the Gemara.
It's not going to dent every time you hit the bone.
Etzem vadei pogam.
Yeah.
The question is, what type of force does it need? That we're going to see machlokas. But for assume etzem vadei pogam, whatever that means, right? Whatever the contact is, it happened.
Chip the knife though. It won't be perfectly straight.
Still slightly absurd.
Listen,
Let's demonstrate. Get some knives.
we're going to need some. Let's go to Sobeys. Get some of those. They're giving away knives at Sobeys. So you got to get 30 stickers and start practicing on
And you have
knives.
the sharpener also. Just
Two at a time.
What? Who was I talking about that? It was you. I was talking with you with the knives.
No,
oh, because
yeah.
I brought my knives. I brought on Thursday shear after the bite. I brought 4 knives to Tovals. So I just went to Sobeys before. So I just went to the mikvah after.
You serve the majority of the time, the skin doesn't cause any damage.
Right. Or is a suffix. Rav Huna holds. Everyone holds a suffix. Right? Because remember, if or was a vada, you must check your knife after every shchita, because you got to go through or and you already do shchita. Right? But we don't need that. We don't need to check after shchita. Midoraisa.
Right. If you hit a bone, you shouldn't need to check.
And if you hit a bone, you...
already know.
No, again, according to Rav Chisda,
Isn't that how we rolled?
no, we saw last week the halacha is...
If you hit a bone, you could assume it's from the bone.
Okay, so here. The Hilchasa, where's the Hilchasa? Turn the page. Yudamud Beis, the third line. Hilchasa. Actually, we're going to read, I want to actually read the Shulchan Aruch today. The Hilchasa Kavate de Rav Huna, Kishalo Shiber Ba'atzem. Yeah, so, right? The Hilchasa Kavate de Rav Chisda, Kishishiber Ba'atzem. I think that's what we ended with last week, right? In our
What's the
Gemara.
machlokes when they hit a bone? Don't they both agree that it's about
No, so if
you lose it, that you hit a bone?
So hold on to the Hilchasa because we'll get there. Because the Hilchasa appears to be very straightforward, then it's not so straightforward. So I wanted to come back to that also. I just want one step at a time. Okay, let's go back for a second because it's going to help us with this final answer. What type of contact must I make with the bone? Okay, I'm going to give you different types of contact. Ready? When you remember what we explained before, when you do shchita, you cannot do this, right? You must do sisa. Now, if I do sisa and I go through the simanim, remember we saw the picture? Remember the picture we saw last week or 2 weeks ago, whenever it was? And I go through the simanim, and there's a gap of, I'm not sure, a few millimeters, maybe a few inches, depending on the animal, right? Before you hit the mafrekas. So if I, let's say, continue, I'm like not really paying attention as well. So what you should do is, so you're actually supposed to stick your hand in there and pull the simonim. And this way, how do I demonstrate this? If you have I'm a righty, right? So if you take your simonim, you lift them up a little bit, right? You don't want to cut your hand, right? So you lift them up and you do your shchita. In the olden days, they would do it down, right? So you lift it up your simon. This way, the simon will lift it up because you don't lift them up and snap them. They're much stronger than that. You lift them up a little bit, and this way you increase the space between your simonim and the mafrekas, and it's a little bit easier to contact, right? So you start cutting like this. Once your hand can get in, you kind of lift them up, and then you finish that shchita. Let's say you're not paying attention, and you continue in this action, and you hit your mafrekas. So is that enough of Vadai Pogim? So we have what's called just regular, you're doing your regular shchita and hit your etzem, hit your mafrekas. Is that enough? Is that what we're talking about? Is that the case that Rav Chisda says Vadai Pogim? 2. Or are we saying, no, you need to chip the bone, or do you need to smash the bone? Okay?
The bone has to break.
Okay.
So you can't hit it and the knife breaks, but the bone doesn't break. It's a strong one.
Let's assume that the knife is not breaking. Let's assuming, knife, animal versus man, right? This is knife versus bone, right? So that's our scenario here. What type of contact do we need to have with the knife and a bone to say Vadai Pogim?
You need a decent amount of force.
So you need it now. Okay, great answer. What does that mean? Give me.
If you're just sawing back and forth,
What's your gut reaction? And then give me a svara. Can anyone see by the language of the Gemara what might be the halacha definition even according to Chisda? What do you need? Take a look at the language of the Brisa, the lashon of Rav Chisda, and you tell me what do you think and why.
Just break a bone.
What do you see break a bone? What does it say? Read me the words. Read me the words in Hebrew.
I couldn't.
Be'ivrit. So listen to the words. We just read it like a minute ago. Read the Hilchasa. New? Shlomo, read. Now, what is the language? Ma lashon. She bear.
Break the bone.
She bear sounds. What do you need to do? Not chip, not nick. You need to smash, pulverize. That's a lashon. No?
It's probably pretty hard, man.
That's very, to me, isn't that a strong language? She bear. PL, right? It's a strong.
Breaking bones on
Yeah.
What was that?
Especially if you're
You're not gonna break it.
Depends on the
You're
knife.
cut it in half, maybe. You're not gonna like smash it to pieces.
Yeah.
You swing it.
Depends on the knife.
Smash
Chop
the
it.
The knife's harder than the bone.
Yeah.
Or cut through it, but it's not gonna like smash into like 30 pieces.
Yeah, you have to cut all the way, like, you have to cut, like, all the way through the bone to do that.
Unless you're just like kidding.
Okay, so I guess you fell asleep during shechita, right? No, I don't know, right? Or you're just so strong.
Yeah, like, you're, like, you're fully decapitating the animal.
You are. By the way, when it comes to egla rufa, you cut the other direction, right? You got to cut through the bone by egla rufa, right? You got to.
You think you're using enough force?
Roof.
You're shafting the animal. You're using enough force to break the
Like a
bone?
chicken, you probably could go right through the head.
Okay, chicken's gonna be much easier to go through the bone. Yeah. With the action, what's hard about a chicken is that your fingers don't break the simonim. They don't snap them, right? The animal is much harder to do so apparently. Both you could snap the simonim with your fingers. That's what you have to be careful of a chicken. Yeah. Okay, we have to go to field trip. We'll get there. Hopefully, I have a few students who are putting on a bid, who just placed a bid with the Ontario government to open up new. They will receive the bid for the kosher chickens in Ontario, and if they get the bid, there'll be shechita once again in Ontario. It'll be very good.
No more Marvin.
No more Marvin. Marvin will not be very happy. But the Ontario government actually is in tremendous pressure to have kosher chicken in Ontario. They are doing whatever they can to open it up again. Listen, not everyone remembers the Jessen family and the Chai chickens. Way back when, right?
20 years ago.
So how many years ago? Long.
It hasn't been gone that long.
20?
No, I think less.
Less than 20?
Actually, I don't know.
You don't know.
Working part of us back in the day.
Right. Anyway, so hopefully, if we have these Talmudim open up kosher chicken, well, we gotta go for a visit, no question about it. So, okay, hopefully so. They're supposed to know already last week. The government just deleted 30 days, so they went out for another 30 days. So, I totally lost my train of thought. So you were saying, okay, well, that's a pretty major mistake. You don't know what you mean, or you smashed a bone, right? Like the guy mamish fell asleep, right, and just fell asleep, but okay. But that's the language of the Gemara, no shiber. Because remember, if you go back to the original case, look at the language of the original case. Go back for a second. Rav Huna says, "Afilu shiber atzamos kolayom." The guy is like, smashing away. It's like pulverizing bones. Shiber, not afilu, naga be'atzamos kolayom. It's shiber kolayom. It appears that we want now. It appears, and this is what's good, I think. Now, with that, we're ready for, I think, an important Rashi. Let's read together. See be'etzem mafrekas. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5. You everyone with me? Fifth line. Yud Amud Beis. Fifth line. Betzem Mafrekas. Anyone want to read? Volunteer. Josh, want to read? Want to read for us, Josh?
Sure.
Go for it.
It's a.
Betzem Mafrekas.
Oh wait, where? Which?
Fifth line from the top.
First skinny line.
First skin line. First skin line of Rashi.
Oh.
Go ahead. Betzem Mafrekas.
Be'etzem mafrekas. Lachar shchita shenaga be'etzem hatzor v'hi hamafreket.
Okay, fine. So now, first of all, it's just helping us what's Betzem Mafrekas. That is, after shchita, you hit this bone of the neck, which is called Mafrekas, as it says in Shmuel. Fine. Next. Velo. What?
Wait, below is damage.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Okay, that's true. Go ahead. Velo.
Velo sphera lan kavate lamatle lakula. Hinagia de'etzem mafreket lo. Lo pigima lisakin tapi.
Same or. So again. The negia be'etzem mafrekas lo pagalasakin or. If it's just negia b'mafrekas, you cannot tell me that negia b'mafrekas is greater or less than going through the or, right? Because that's just negia b'mafrekas. Negia b'mafrekas is not going to be vaday pogame. It's just negia b'mafrekas. So if all you do with your knife is kiss the bone, right? That is not going to be vaday pogame. Except, go on, aval. Finish this off here. Shaviras.
Aval shvirat atzmut
Atzamos, atzamot, the smashing of the
Bones. Bahahu vadai tulinan.
That is the only vadai. So when you smash a bone, that's a vadai. Anything else? So again, if I smash a bone, only in that case, Rav Chizda can say with definitive certainty. Rav Huna would also, everyone agrees, vadai pogim. Okay? Now, it's such a vadai pogim that even if I were to lose my knife and not see that it had a reusa, you'd have to assume it does because it's vadai pogim.
But then we were arguing hit before. You don't go through
Right. So
the bone.
so I will clarify. It must be that what do? You're not just shechting and you're contacting. You're smashing going all the way through. Yes.
Rav Huna would hold that making contact with the bone and losing the knife is not good enough to assume.
Yes, I think you're right. I think if all you do is hit it and make contact, it could be that it's not good enough.
He said hit the bone. He didn't say go through the bone.
Has he smashed the bone? Has he smashed the bone? I think based on this, we have to smash the bone. Okay, good. Next. Now. So it appears that's straightforward, but it's actually not straightforward. Can you actually grab me? Where's the Shulchan Aruch? Is it there? Can you grab me, please? You're there. First chelik and you're there. Thank you. Fancy Shulchan Aruch. Wow, this is the fancy one. I am not so. This is beautiful. Wow, chadash. Okay, here. Listen to this. So, I said, oh, you know what? Let me look up what the halacha is. So listen to this. Are you ready? Hashochet besakin baduk. Right, which is we said. So you checked your knife, fine. Vachar shchita shiber bo atzamos. Now, this is one of these things, you don't try this at home. Right? So there's a guy who's smashing bones. Derech shavira. Oh, sorry, shavira. Shalo b'derech holcha v'hevia. So you smash the bone not because you did. Oh, so not only that. Shulchan Aruch is saying it's not enough just to smash a bone. If you smash the bone with seesaw action, that's not the same as smashing a bone like this. You follow? Okay. So that's what he says here. So let me read you again. Derech shavira. Derech shavira is like a guy who has a lot of, anger. A guy who needs to, chill a little. As opposed to shlo b'derech. So as opposed to a person who's shechting and he's just not paying attention and he just continues that seesaw action and goes through the bone. Right? That's the chiluk between the two of them. Ubadku. The nimsa pagum. Shechitaso. What do you think the next word is? Kshera or not kshera? Kshera. Now, that is where, remember, v'hilchos hakivate? Where we hilchos hakivate to Rav Chizda? Kishe shiber. Now, not just shiber, but shiber, shvira, the whole way through. Not just I technically smash the bone. No, that's not what I want to use. I didn't just go through the bone. I smashed the bone, right? That's right, in terms of my physical force. Now, what's the rationale? Shulchan Aruch continues. The anu, see, now we appreciate the Shulchan Aruch, right? Now you have much more appreciation for it. The anu tolim shebeshvirat hatzamot nifkama. Okay? So there we go. That's Rav Chizda. The definition of shiber, not hol chavevia. Who does he quote here? The Shulchan Aruch says it's the Rashba, it's the Ran, Rabbi Yerucham. Okay.
So etzem vada nifkama that we mentioned in the Gemara is we actually have to break it.
Okay. So Shlomo asks a very good point. Now we have to say, when we say etzem vada nifkama, it's not just etzem vada nifkama. It's etzem vada smashed it and only then nifkama. But if it was seesaw holcha vevia, not so simple that we're going to say it's vada pogim. But now, what's the rationality behind it? Because if you're seesawing, even a bone, it doesn't necessarily going to cause a dent because you're seesawing it, right? But from a physics perspective, help me out here. When you're seesawing, so you're displacing the physics. You're not just pressing everything on one point, right? And therefore, since it's the physics, the pressure is much, much less. It's being diffused over a greater surface area. I'm not a physics guy. So, I took physics in high school, but that's not a proof for anything. That's not a vadai. we're being recorded, so we won't talk about the high schools. Okay, but that's the okay. But you understand the rationale behind it, as opposed to when you do this, so the amount of force is much greater. You understand why it could
I still feel like
pressure on the
I think
knife.
it would still damage your knife if you still just seesaw it.
So you're going to see actually a bit machlokas. Are you going to see others who are
Making it,
disagree?
like, perfectly smooth like this.
If the knife's harder than the bone, then
Right,
you
bone
have to
generally
give
doesn't-
significant force.
The knife has to be able to cut a bone.
Yeah.
That's
Then
a
the
given.
knife's harder than the
Yeah,
bone.
bone doesn't usually cut smoothly. Bone usually cuts like
Jagged.
jagged. And
It's
then-
irrelevant. A softer object can't break a harder object unless you.
So again, remember, I don't need to break my knife. I just need to poke in my knife.
We don't know if the bone's harder than the knife.
Again, it's not about hard or not. It's sharp, right? If you have something which is sharper, if something which is sharper can cut something which is harder.
Right, but if the knife is as hard as the bone, it still won't.
It's sharper.
No, regardless if it's sharper.
It has to do with your ability to take all the force and narrow into a smaller area. Hello, physics people? Anyone in physics? You can take the physics
Taking
university?
that.
So, help us out.
So yeah,
Area?
you press on a spot, then it,
To draw a free body diagram and figure out the angles and then use the equation.
But
depends on
right,
the angle that you're pressing. If I'm pressing directly on something, then it's full force. If I'm pressing kind of like indirectly, then it gets
diffused, dispersed.
Regardless, one
First.
object's harder than the other object.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Like the harder object, the softer object will break the
malleability.
harder object.
Mobility, right.
Right.
That's mobility. Okay,
Sounds official.
let's go. It sounds like you're talking about. Okay, let's go on. Let's finish this. Listen to this. Now, what happens if my knife, let's say I'm having a bad shechita day. I'm just having a bad day. In order, instead of having those tension, what do they call those tension balls? Stress balls. Right. So instead of that, I decided to take out my stress on my shechita knife, which isn't a smart thing to do because they're very expensive, and, as opposed to, those little squeezy balls, which are much cheaper. But let's say, I don't have time to go to the dollar store to buy one. Haven't been invented yet. Right, exactly. So I take my knife, and I'm like, and I smash it on the ground. Now, is my ground like an etzem? Now, I'm not going to cut through the ground.
Here you're literally like smashing. Like, yeah.
Right. Like, I guess not like this carpet, right? No, it's not falling on carpet. It's falling on stone.
Imagine being in a kitchen or shechita workplace. They wouldn't have carpet on the floor.
Right. Yeah, there's no carpet.
Marble.
It's like marble. Right. It's not going to be dirt or earth, because dirt and earth is not very strong. I mean, it is very strong. I stand on it, but that's not, you need a stone of some sort. Won't break a knife, no. So the Shura continues, and listen to this. He says, Nafal al-gabe karka kasha. So again, exactly what is karka kasha? I guess it's like hard earth. It doesn't say nafka marble or tile or something, but karka kasha. V'davka kishera'inu shenafal al chodo. So it's not enough just to have your knife fall to the ground. You have to see the knife's blade hit the ground. Aval. Misfeka, if it's a suffix, meaning if you don't know the direction, the way your knife fell on the ground, ain't tolin lo morsha nafal al chodo. I cannot be told that to say that it definitely fell and hit the blade. Vim sherbo etzem hamafrekas afilu derech shavira ain't. Oh, sorry. The next stage, I don't want to read. I take that back because it's a different thing. Okay. Now, listen to this. There's a machlokas. This is really going to confuse you guys. The Rishonim say, time out. I want to be medayik of something in the lashon of this conversation. Do you notice what type of bone is our Gemara talking about? Go back to smashing bones, chotech etzem. What's going on here? I'm like turning the wrong book, right? What bone are we talking about here?
Probably the vertebrae.
So I always assumed they were talking about until I saw. Wait a second. If it was the mafrekas from the beginning, why doesn't it say mafrekas in the beginning? Meaning, you'll notice what's the language? What's the language here? The language is. Why doesn't it say afilu shibir hamafrekas? Is that interesting? Why is it that the lashon is even if you smash bones all day? Why doesn't it just say afilu shiber hamafrekas achar kach? Why does it? That has a crazy case of a guy who's like in a really bad mood and he's like smashing bones with his shechita knife. That's like, just say something which is much more plausible, and that is you just continue going through and you smash mafrekas.
With that kind of force, it wouldn't be slaughtering properly.
Okay, so maybe first of all, this person was doing the sisa. Actually, you're saying what? Okay, I'll tell you why. I'm like, yes, I finished my shechita. I mean, it's possible, right? Yes, I finished. And I,
Also, I can imagine it's terribly.
Listen, man, these shochets are like 6 foot. No shochets weighing like 140. They're not like the featherweight. But these guys are like
I can't imagine it's a terribly strong
220.
What?
Also, you can't imagine. Okay, Josh just said something very interesting. The Rishonim say, you know the problem with mafrekas is? It's actually the softest bone. Okay, I don't know if it's the softest bone, but it's considered a soft bone. So now the Rishonim, and I'll get there, we'll see that. I don't know if I'll get there today, but when I saw Shulchan Aruch, I was like, what? What's going on here? Then I had to go back and reread certain parts of the Gemara again, because listen to Shulchan Aruch would cause me to get confused. The Gemara then says, the Shulchan Aruch ends with, Im shiber bo etzem hamafrekas. If you break the mafrekas, afilu derech shvira. So you smash this mafrekas. Ein tolin bo mipnei shehu rach. Which was basically not the way we were explaining it. Right? We assume, you smash the mafrekas. No, okay. But says Shulchan Aruch, no, mafrekas is a soft bone. Don't rely on the. Now, why is he saying that? Because the Gemara says Shibir Batsamos, and it doesn't begin with Shibir Mafrekas, which is a much more plausible, rational. It's right there. Right? Why are you introducing a bone from outside for? That's so random. Deal with the bone. That's so much more likely. So the answer might be because it's a rach bone. It's a softer bone. By the way, not everyone agrees with that. With that softness of the bone. Some people say it matters, doesn't matter. But the Shulchan Aruch is telling us it does matter. You can, even if you smash a saw, it's not vade pogim from even the mafrekas. And therefore, if you shech the animal and you go through the mafrekas, smash, for sure seesawing, but even smashing, you cannot assume that your knife was blunted because of the mafrekas. You have to be tola shema ba'or nifkama, and your shechita is no good. That, my friends, is a nice chumrah. That's a big chumrah. That's a Pele Shulchan Aruch says. We're not even going to agree to that, as I saw the Nosei Kelim might disagree. But that's what Shulchan Aruch says.
It also means that the knife is missing pretty much.
Very
good.
So that could be a kula. If the knife is missing, I don't have a reyusa, I can't assume vadei pogem. Yes, and it would be good. Correct. Yeah. So again, afilu shiber. Very good, Josh. Afilu shiber. According to this, hamafrekas shiber, not just sisa. Holech v'hevi sisa, and I lose my knife. It could be good because I've no reyusa, not vadei pogem, and therefore I'd be okay. So sometimes chumrah can also be a kula. Right? If you lose your knife, which again is not
a scenario where if you lost your knife, it wouldn't be kosher. Because if you know you were smashing bone, again, you already hold that like Rav Costa.
It's really rough to lose your knife.
So I'll tell you an example. If you lose your knife, so again,
but if you see the nick, and you were smashing the bone anyways, we hold that Rav Costa.
So if we hold that like the Shulchan Aruch, that you did your shechita, you smashed the mafrekas, you lose your knife, it would be okay. But if you then did your shechita, smashed mafrekas, smashed another bone, lose your knife, would not be okay.
We'd hold
so
that
you're right.
Fist anyways. If you smash.
Yes, right. Sorry, right. Yeah, right. I'm going to Rav Huna though. You'd be in trouble. Yes. According to Rav Chizda, you'd be okay. Right.
So if you hit the bone, according to Rav Huna, Rav Chizda, you both say.
Okay, wait a second. By the way, this is very important. This is halacha saying that if you go through the mafrekas, Even Rav Chizda, or I shouldn't say that. The halacha is, it's no good. Because it's a suffix of a dead your bone.
Contingent on smashing the bones afterwards.
This is understanding that even, this is understanding perhaps, that Rav Chizda is saying, smashing a bone is a bone, not a mafrekes. You follow? That if I take a knife and I go through the mafrekes, smash it. Says Rav Chizda, that's not considered shibir batzamos. I can't say vada nifkama. I have to be choshesh or nifkama, halachically, and it's no good. Right? That's what the Shulchan Aruch is saying. If I do shchita, if I smash my bone, smash the mafrekes bone, and I see a dent in the knife, it's no good, my animal. Why? Shema ba'or nifkama. I can't be tola and say vadai b'mafrekes nifkama. I cannot say that because the mafrekes is considered rach. Okay, that's what the Shulchan Aruch is saying. The Shach and the Taz are going to argue on it, but that we don't have time for it because it's.
Were we ever even arguing over the fact of when he didn't hit a bone?
No, sorry. If it doesn't hit a bone,
we were never even arguing.
No, of course not. Rav Chizda is only saying, yeah, no, it's all right. If you just do regular shchita, you look at your knife and you see there's a problem in your knife. Of course, it's no good. Okay, so what else are you going to say? How else did that? You checked your knife before; it was good. Yeah. You did regular shchita. You see a nick in your knife. What are you going to say? The only thing you can say is ba'or nifkama. Interesting. Rav Chizda, though, there are those who actually want to say that even Rav Chizda would still say it would be okay. Okay, but that's the. Yeah.